What if sleep isn't just about resting your body? I mean, what if it's when your consciousness actually leaves, when the veil between realities thins and maybe you're not really safe in your bed anymore? Welcome to Cool, Weird, and Possible. Today we're diving headfirst into a question that's probably kept a few people up at night. Where does our consciousness go when we sleep?
Hmm.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit. For ages, right? Most of us probably thought sleep was just switching off. Body and mind shutting down for the night, quiet time, a total blank until the alarm goes off. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the night is actually when things get really interesting?
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is just how incredibly active your brain stays during sleep. I mean,
Hmm.
far from shutting down, it's buzzing, there's complex activity, it's processing information, doing things very differently than when you're awake. And this isn't just, a human thing. This kind of active sleep state, well, some form of it, seems to be basically universal
Hmm.
all across the tree of life. It's been seen in animals as simple as sidereia, think jellyfish, and even fruit flies. The fact that it's so widespread really suggests sleep serves some kind of fundamental, really deeply conserved purpose. It goes beyond meeting a big complex brain.
Whoa, hang on. Jellyfish. So it's not just like a complex mammal thing. Even a jellyfish is having its own little brain buzz moment.
Yep.
What does that even look like for something without, well, much of a brain?
Well, it's about the patterns of activity, not necessarily dreaming as we know it. But in humans and other mammals, yeah, sleep is mainly split into two types. You've got NREM, that's non-rapid eye movement sleep, and REM, rapid eye movement sleep. During NREM, your brain waves definitely change from wakefulness. They often slow right down as you get deeper. But here's the really interesting part. During REM sleep, the brain's activity, it looks almost identical to being wide awake, even though your body is, completely out of it. And that leads to a really big question, doesn't it? If you're clearly asleep, but your brain is acting like it's awake during REM, what does that actually mean for your consciousness? Where are you in that state?
Okay, yeah, and this is where it gets really wild for me. Birds. They're pretty distant from us, evolutionarily, right? But they independently evolved the same two kinds of sleep. NREM and REM. They even do the eye darting thing and lose muscle tone, like just like
Yeah.
us. Or, like your dog twitching on the rug, dreaming of chasing squirrels. Oh, it's a REM, yeah.
Exactly. That's typically REM in action. And seeing this parallel evolution, this convergence in birds and mammals, it just hammers home how incredibly important these sleep states must be. Nature arrived at the same solution twice.
Yeah.
It's clearly doing something absolutely vital, even if we're still figuring out exactly what.
Okay, so jellyfish, birds, us. Sleep seems like this non-negotiable fundamental thing.
Right.
But then you look at some animals and it's like, they just didn't get the memo. Or they read it and just like threw it away. They seem to completely defy the rules.
Oh, absolutely. Sleep shows remarkable plasticity. It can be modified, sometimes dramatically, by the environment, by ecological pressures. And these examples really push our understanding of what sleep is for and maybe how essential it is in the way we usually think about it. Take the pectoral sandpipers. These little guys, the males, they breed up in the Arctic tundra, constant daylight in summer. And to maximize their chances of reproducing in this really intense competition, some males basically skip sleep almost entirely for weeks. We're talking like over 95% active for 19 days straight. And the kicker,
Yeah.
the ones who slept the least were the ones who actually sired the most offspring. It just flies in the face of sleep is essential for fitness.
No sleep, more babies. Okay, that's messing with my head. How do they do that? Is it just pure adrenaline or are they wired completely differently? Is there some massive trade-off happening we don't see?
Well, we're still studying the exact mechanisms, but it's likely a combination of factors, including hormonal changes and maybe even some form of highly efficient microsleeps. And we see similar, maybe less extreme, sleep production in other species too, during really crucial times. Male fruit flies, for example, they sleep way less at night when there are females around. Got to prioritize. And bumblebees cut down on sleep when there are larvae present, even if they're not their own larvae. Probably a response to chemical signals, pheromones, telling them work needs doing. And then you have the really extreme cases like marine mammals and some birds. Think about dolphins or fur seals. They can sleep while swimming, often shutting down only half their brain at a time, unihemispheric sleep. Fur seals can even suppress REM sleep for ages, like weeks, without needing extra REM later to catch up. And birds like the frigate bird, they might sleep in short bursts while soaring for days or weeks over the ocean because they literally can't land on water. The European swift is even thought to stay airborne for years before it lands to nest. Years.
Years. Okay, that's just mind-blowing. So, what does all this mean for us humans then? If all these creatures can survive, even seem to thrive with such weird or minimal sleep patterns, why are we seemingly so dependent on our solid 8 hours? Are we just inefficient sleepers? Could we learn to be more flexible?
It's a fantastic question. The traditional view was always that sleep is purely driven by internal need, like hunger. But these examples really hammer home that external factors, environment, social cues, survival needs are incredibly powerful drivers. They can override that internal pressure, at least for a while. It shows just how adaptable sleep regulation can be, maybe more than we thought.
Which brings us right back to the core mystery, doesn't it? If our brains are buzzing away, especially in REM, what is happening with our consciousness? Is it just offline, taking a break, or is it actually somewhere else, maybe not tied to our physical body in the same way?
Oh, and that dives right into what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. How does subjective experience, your feeling of being you, actually arise from the physical stuff of the brain? Dream consciousness is a really unique angle on this because you have high brain activation, almost like being awake, but you're cut off from the outside world. The inputs are internal. During REM sleep, yeah, the brain actively closes its input-output gates, and the neurochemistry changes quite dramatically. So you get this activated, but essentially offline state. And that's the state where dreaming happens. Some theories are now suggesting maybe waking and dreaming aren't fundamentally different kinds of things. Maybe they're just two different modes of the same conscious system. And maybe thinking of brain and mind as separate, that dualistic view is the source of the hard problem. Perhaps they're just two aspects of one unified physical system, the brain-mind, always generating experience, just differently.
My brain mind. Okay, so my crazy dreams, the ones where the cactuses suddenly have teeth and start chasing me, that's just my brain mind doing its internal thing, cut off from reality. But they feel so incredibly real sometimes. If it's all just internal signals, why does it feel like I'm really there, experiencing something solid and external?
You've hit on a really key point there. The phenomenal character, the feeling of dreams, often mimics waking perception perfectly. It feels like you're seeing, touching, interacting with real things, even though, obviously, no such objects are actually being perceived by your senses. So, yeah, in that philosophical sense, dreams are very much like hallucinations. Spontaneous, internally generated experiences that feel real. I mean, even if you dream you're looking around your own bedroom, your eyes are closed. You're not seeing it with your eyes. Your brain is generating the image. And it gets even more interesting with lucid dreaming. Some recent research actually proposes that lucid dreaming might be a distinct state of consciousness in its own right. You become aware you're dreaming, maybe even gain some control, but you're still in the dream world, experiencing it. It's a fascinating hybrid state.
Okay, if dreams are like hallucinations, internal simulations, what's the point? Why bother? Is it just random brain noise firing off? Or is there some actual function, some method to the madness?
Or
Really?
maybe something bigger. Well, the science definitely points towards function. Studies show that during sleep, especially non-REM sleep, the brain is actively working with memories. Cells in the hippocampus, it's like the brain's memory inbox replay recent experiences. But interestingly, they often do it in fast-forward, compressed snippets, sometimes even backwards. The leading theory is that this is crucial for learning, for consolidating memories, figuring out patterns, building internal models of how the world works, like, learning traffic rules subconsciously. But your killer cactus dream, that's more likely happening during REM sleep. And in REM, memory replay seems different. It's often in real time, more like sequences, not just compressed fragments. The brain acts almost as if it's awake, moving through these internally generated scenarios or models. And here's where it gets really creative, or maybe bizarre. Studies show that during REM, the brain has a much higher tendency to make novel connections, link unrelated ideas. It's less constrained, more associative.
So REM is where the brain kind of lets its hair down, makes these wild connections. That sounds almost, well, yeah, creative. Brainstorming while you sleep. But while science talks about memories and models, this freewheeling association, it opens the door to other ideas, doesn't it? More speculative stuff. Some people suggest that maybe, just maybe, when you sleep, your consciousness isn't just locked inside your skull replaying memories. What if it actually detaches somehow, travels to other places, or maybe taps into some kind of unified field of information, like some theories in quantum physics hint at? I mean, how else do you explain things like shared dreams, where two people have incredibly similar, detailed dreams on the same night? Or precognitive dreams, people dreaming about something, sometimes quite specific before it happens. If consciousness isn't bound by a linear time in that state, maybe it can access information differently.
Those are certainly fascinating accounts. And while the scientific explanations usually focus on coincidence, memory reconstruction, or subconscious processing, the subjective experience can be incredibly profound. It's clear that what we experience during sleep varies hugely, from fleeting thoughts to these incredibly immersive, vivid worlds. Some experiences might be purely internal processing, just like the memory replay models suggest, but others definitely feel like interacting with something else, whether it's a highly realistic internal simulation or, well, the interpretation is still debated.
And sometimes that line between the internal dream world and the external real world, it gets completely messed up, right? That's when sleep gets really, really weird. And maybe even a bit scary.
Exactly. We're moving into the territory of parasomnias now. These are abnormal behaviors or experiences that happen during sleep, often when the brain gets stuck in a kind of mixed state between sleep and wakefulness.
Hmm.
A really dramatic example is REM sleep behavior disorder, or RBD. Now, normally during REM sleep, your muscles are paralyzed. It's called rematonia. It's a safety mechanism, stops you acting out your dreams. But in RBD, that paralysis fails. It's lost. So patients literally, physically act out their dreams. And these dreams are often vivid, action-packed, sometimes aggressive. People might punch, kick, jump out of bed, tackle furniture. We've seen cases, documented ones, of people dreaming they're playing football and tackling a dresser, or dreaming they're fighting off an attacker and accidentally harming their bed partner.
And you can actually see that the physical actions match what they later report dreaming about. That is genuinely unsettling, like the dream is bleeding into reality. And there's that connection too, isn't there? A really significant one.
Yes. The beautiful correspondence, as researchers call it, between the dream content and the actions makes RBD incredibly valuable for study. And what's emerged is a very strong link, particularly in older men. A high percentage, sometimes reported as high as 81%, of people diagnosed with RBD eventually go on to develop Parkinson's disease or a related neurodegenerative disorder like Lewy body dementia. So RBD isn't just a sleep curiosity. It can actually be a very early warning sign, appearing years, even decades, before other symptoms manifest. It's like the brain sending up a flare. And it's not just REM sleep where things go awry. Other parasomnias pop up in non-REM sleep, usually the deep stages. Sleepwalking or somnambulism is a classic example. It happens during deep NREM sleep. The part of the brain controlling movement activates, but the conscious awareness parts stay asleep. So people can get up, walk around, talk, even do complex things like cook or rearrange furniture, all with zero awareness. Cases range from the weird, like trying to talk to statues in a cemetery, to the incredibly serious people who have driven cars for miles or committed harmful acts with absolutely no memory of it later. A key indicator is often the complete lack of pain perception during these episodes, even with significant injuries. It really highlights just how altered the state of consciousness is.
Wow. It really is like a secret life your body is leading while your conscious mind is completely checked out. And there are other bizarre ways this can show up too, right?
There's also sexsomnia. This also tends to occur during non-REM sleep, often linked to partial awakenings, perhaps triggered by something like sleep apnea, their snoring, and breathing pauses. Individuals engage in sexual behaviors while asleep, again with no awareness or memory. Interestingly, while RBD dreams rarely seem to involve sexual content, sexsomnia shows how these deeply ingrained instinctual behaviors can surface when the brain is in that twilight zone between sleep and wake. These conditions, RBD, sleepwalking, sexsomnia, they can be very disturbing, obviously. But the good news is they're often treatable once they're properly diagnosed by sleep specialists.
Man, we've gone from jellyfish all the way to these incredibly complex, sometimes unsettling human sleep behaviors, all trying to figure out where our consciousness goes. After exploring all this, what are the big questions still burning for you? What keeps you curious?
Oh, there's still so much we don't know. On a fundamental level, for instance, why do we lose the ability to regulate our body temperature during REM sleep? We become almost cold-blooded for that period. What's the evolutionary advantage or purpose of that vulnerability? And more broadly, I'm really fascinated by the full spectrum of sleep's benefits for waking life. We know sleep deprivation is bad, it causes all sorts of problems, but what are all the positive things good sleep does? How exactly does it boost creativity, regulate mood, improve learning, beyond just memory consolidation? And those animals that barely sleep, what is happening in their brains? What allows them to suspend this seemingly vital function for so long? Can we learn anything from them?
Yeah, and the conspiracist part of my brain keeps circling back. If our brains are busy learning, building models, making weird connections in REM, what if the content of our dreams, the stuff we actually experience, isn't just reflecting the past, but somehow actively influences our future, our choices, our paths, maybe in ways we aren't even aware of?
Well, there's a very strong documented link between memory and imagination, or prospection, the ability to think about the future. The same brain networks seem to be involved. Our ability to recall past events is tightly coupled with our ability to construct potential future scenarios. So it's entirely plausible that dreaming could be part of that process, a way of exploring possibilities, running simulations, imagining potential worlds and how we might navigate them. It could subtly shape our expectations and even our waking actions.
So maybe consciousness doesn't just go somewhere passive when we sleep. Maybe it doesn't just rest or replay the day's events. What if it actually expands? Explores possibilities, connects things in new ways, maybe even touches realms beyond our normal waking perception. What incredible, maybe even startling abilities might be waiting there if we could just learn how to truly understand and maybe even tap into the amazing power hidden in our dreaming minds. Well, we hope this deep dive into the strange and wonderful world of sleep and consciousness has given you some new things to ponder the next time your head hits the pillow. Thank you so much for joining us on Cool, Weird, and Possible. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please do subscribe to our channel. We've got plenty more surprising facts and unexpected insights coming your way. See you next time.